intention is to continue to preach, because I believe that's covered under my First Amendment right.
If you got this many people up here screaming at you, right?
I don't think this is a disturbance.
So if we walked away and they all ran up here and beat you up,
I'm not going to do that. They've been very civil. I have a camera. If they assault me, I'll call the police. That would be illegal. But me preaching with my banner is not illegal.
Here's what's going to happen. We're not going to allow you to preach here. If you want to go across the street, or
no,
on the other side of the
no.
street.
This is a public property. You're telling me that if I continue to preach as I'm doing, that I'll be arrested or trespassed, I'll leave and I'll call your captain. But if you're not telling me that, I'm going to continue to preach.
don't give warnings. If we're going to arrest you, we just give you an arrest.
Okay.
You know what the rules are.
Yeah, and this is not against the rules.
You understand what the rules are.
Yeah, I think this conversation is fruitless. If me standing here and preaching is going to cause me to be arrested or cited, I'll leave. If not, I'd like to continue to preach and use my First Amendment right.
It causes disturbance, but we get complaints that you're offending people.
You can offend people. That's the First Amendment. It was designed to create protection for unpopular speech.
I love how people think they understand how their First Amendment rights work. And since he's mentioning the First Amendments, then you also have the First Amendment that says that you have a right of freedom of religion as well. And it cuts both ways. It means that you have a right to believe in whatever you choose to believe in, and so does everybody else. But what you do not have a right to do is infringe upon someone else's ability to believe in the religion that they believe in. Now, you do have a right of freedom of speech. He's right. You have a right of that, but that cuts both ways as well. If your freedom of speech creates a situation where it starts or initiates a riot or violence or major conflict, then your freedom of speech is not more important than the freedom of people to have safety simply because you incited a riot. So you do not have freedom of speech. Now, if people are complaining and those people are becoming riotous, then you incite that riot, just like screaming fire in a movie theater, then you are held accountable. You have the freedom to yell fire in a movie theater, but if you incite a riot and people are trampled, then you are at fault for doing so when there is no fire. So when these people think that they can preach on public property, they think they have a freedom to do so. But not all public property, you have freedoms and right on those properties. I am a U.S. Marine. I cannot go on to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, or any other military base and do whatever I choose to do. I have to have authorization to go on that base. I have to have authorization to perform whatever protest or gathering that I desire to have. You cannot just show up on public property. You can't go to the Capitol building. You can't go to any government. You can't go to like the IRS is not a government facility, but you can't go to, and it's in my mind, I can't think of it. But you cannot go to government facilities that have rules and regulations on them based on who's authorized and who's not authorized. Just because a piece of property is public doesn't mean you have access to it, doesn't mean you can do whatever you desire to do on those properties. There are many parks that close. If it's public property and you're able to do whatever you desire, then you should be able to go onto those properties once they close. But no, you cannot. If the park is closed, the park is closed. It doesn't matter about your rights and that it's a public property. You don't have the right to do so. You have the right to assembly, but we have rules and regulations on how you assemble. You can't just assemble in any form or fashion. We now have to gain permits for certain types of public assembly. Now, most of the time, if you're doing something and it's inert, then the police and everybody else just let it be. But when you're causing a disturbance, and even though this is at the University of Oklahoma, and they do receive state funds and federal funds, it doesn't mean that any and everybody can walk on to this campus and do whatever you choose to do. Just like you can't walk into an elementary school. That's what I was trying to think of. You cannot walk into an elementary school if you don't have children there, if you have no reason to be there, if there's no reason for you to be a grown man or woman to be at a elementary school. You don't have a right to be able to wander the halls and go into the classrooms and do all these things or protest at an elementary school or junior high or high school. You don't have that right. And the same thing goes for colleges. So then when these people think they have a right to push their religion on other people and it's covered under the First Amendment, those same people have a right not to have to hear you constantly yelling over megaphones and constantly throwing your religion in their face when they don't adhere to your religion. And if it creates a situation where the police have to be called out because it's starting to, the tempers are starting to rise, then yes, you have to leave. Christians think they have the right to do whatever they choose, but I guarantee if there were Muslims on this college campus and people were being incited, they would agree with the police. If they were of any other religion and people were starting to become agitated, they would agree with the police and they wouldn't be yelling First Amendment, First Amendment, First Amendment. This just shows the bias that people have towards their own religion and what they think should be done based on how they feel, how they think, not based on living in a shared community. This person, I hope that they got arrested. But y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.